guys, so today I wanted to just talk a little bit about the first half marathon that I ever ran. I ran my first half a few weeks ago now. I ran the Urban Bourbon Half Marathon in Louisville, Kentucky. This is the shirt from it. How cool is this shirt? I love it so much. It's just the state of Kentucky with like a little logo there. I really love the fact that they were like long sleeve tech t-shirts that are also v-necks. Like how cool are these? Okay, anyway, so yeah, I was in downtown Louisville. It was on October 20th. And so I just wanted to sort of tell you guys about my overall experience with running my first half. I won't go like mile by mile necessarily, but I'll just sort of tell you guys some interesting things that happened along the way and just sort of talk about how I feel about it now a couple weeks later. So yeah, this was, like I said, in downtown Louisville, so it was pretty close to the Ohio River. So when we got there that morning, the race started at 8 a.m. so we got there about 7 a.m. just to make sure we had plenty of time to find where we were supposed to be, do gear check, go to the bathroom at the last minute, that sort of stuff. So we did get there about an hour early. It was still dark and it was cold, and like I said, it was super windy. There was a lot of extra wind coming off the river, I'm sure, but it was also just like a windy day. So we were pretty cold. I did choose to wear a short sleeve tech t-shirt and capri length leggings and then just like regular ankle socks. Like I didn't wear like compression socks or anything, and I thought that was going to be good for me because by the time the race was going to finish, like by the time I knew I was going to be done, it said the weather was going to be like in the upper 50s, maybe even like low 60s, somewhere in there. So I was like, oh, that should be totally good. Like I won't be super cold or super hot during the race. But when we did start, I was wearing like a jacket, and it was actually sort of a thicker jacket. And when we started the race, we were both super cold. I ran it with my friend Jessica. You guys have seen me post about her on Instagram and Twitter. She's my running bestie. She calls herself my running bestie, but like she's one of my best friends at this point. Just like in general, like not just running, but like in life. But anyway, so we ran the half marathon together. When we first started the race, it was, like I said, we were both still super cold, and we'd already checked our gear and everything and didn't want to have to go back and like check our jackets, so we kept our jackets on just because it was so cold. So we decided to just start the race in our jackets, and we honestly both figured that we'd be fine for several miles. But at mile 1, after we'd already ran like past the river and everything, we were both pretty hot. Like it had turned daylight by then, you know, the sun had risen by then, and while it was a cloudy morning pretty much the whole race, we were both pretty hot at mile 1, so we did have to like stop and walk for a few seconds and take off our jacket. I was wearing a jacket, she was wearing a hoodie, so we were both like really hot. And then for the next 12 miles, we just had to like run with the jackets around our waist because we had chosen to take them off at mile 1. So that was a bad decision. I wish I had worn something maybe more like this, and so I could just like, you know, roll my sleeves up if I got hot, or maybe next year I'll just like hack it in the cold and think to myself like I'll be warm in a mile, it'll be fine, and just like start in my short sleeves and be okay. But I really wasn't sure what to expect. I had never run that far a distance that early, like starting that early in the morning. When I ran that far of a distance like earlier in the summer, I mean I had started earlier in the day. I had started like 6 a.m. or maybe around 7, I can't remember. But it was so much warmer when I was running my longer distances sort of towards the end of the summer. So I had never run that long of a distance with that big of a temperature change, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like it was a little cooler when I started my runs, but I was still comfortable in like a tank top and shorts. And then of course by the end of my longer runs, I definitely wanted to be in a tank top and shorts. So when I started doing my longer runs in training, the weather was more consistent for the entire run. This like started pretty cool and ended pretty comfortably. So yeah, that wasn't a regret, but that was a lesson learned for sure, that like just don't even bother with the jacket because you're not going to need it after the first mile. So yeah, I was pretty good throughout the race until about mile 9. I started to get sort of tired around mile 6 or 7, but I mean like who wouldn't get tired by then, you know? But mile 9, I thought I was going to die. Like I was convinced that I was just going to have to like walk the rest of the race. I genuinely think if I had not been running it with my friend Jessica, I would have walked the last 4 miles of that race. Mile 9, everything hurt. Like the whole everything hurts and I'm dying meme. Everything hurt. My glutes, I felt like I genuinely could not put one foot in front of the other. My glutes were so sore and stiff. Even my hips were stiff. And I mean just like even my knees, my shins, ankles, everything just hurt. Like I was so worn out. But I'd say my glutes and my hips were like the main factor in that. So by mile 10, like we pushed through mile 9, kind of doing like a walk run thing, and then by mile 10, I was just ready to be done. I was like, I just want to get this over with. So we pushed through miles 10 and 11, and then at mile 12, I was like, holy crap, I have nothing left. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. Like, I mean, I knew mentally I was going to push through and finish, but at mile 12, I was like, man, I want to be done so bad. So at like mile 12 and a half, just the way the course is set up, you sort of come through the back of the after party. It's set up like on 4th Street Live. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the way that downtown Louisville is set up, but there's like a little section of 4th Street in downtown that is blocked off. Like, traffic doesn't go through it or anything like that. They have like restaurants and bars and stuff like that, and then they sort of just like block off the street as a big stage. It's called 4th Street Live. It's actually a really, really cool touristy attraction. I don't know that a lot of locals really go there, but it's a really cool place to be. So you come in like sort of on the back end of 4th Street Live at like mile 12 and a half, and you see the after party. Like, they had pizza and burgoo and beer and bourbon. I mean, it was the Urban Bourbon Half Marathon, so like bourbon was a huge focus of it. And you had like all these drink tickets and food tickets that were like on your wristband. So you come in at like I said, it was like mile 12.5, 12.6, somewhere around in there. You come in and you see the after party, and you're like, oh my god, I'm almost done. There's the after party. But then it's like, you still have another freaking half a mile to like power through to come back around. I think we looped back. I don't remember what the streets were. Like, I don't remember the course exactly. But you loop back and come back around like to like the other side of 4th Street. So that was like the worst part of it, was like thinking you're almost done. Like, you can hear all the music, you can see all the people that have finished already. You hear everybody like having a blast and like getting drunk and eating food, and you're still out there running. So that last half mile was like, I was so done. I was so over it. I wanted it to be over with. And so I was like trying to push, trying to pick up my pace a little bit, but I just genuinely had nothing left. And then we came around at about 12.9, getting close to right at the 13-mile mark, and we pushed it on in. I tried to sprint that last like 10th of a mile or so, just as best as I could, and we came across the finish line. We did come in under 3 hours. I think our final time was like 2:55, something like that, which I know to some of you guys who are like actual runners, you think that's probably super, super slow. Your half marathon times are probably like an hour and a half or under, but for me, just being able to finish the race was an accomplishment in and of itself. When I started running at the beginning of the year, I knew I wanted to do, well, no, I take that back. I didn't plan on doing a half marathon exactly at the beginning of the year. I think it was maybe on into like April or May when I actually decided I was going to do my first half marathon this year. Originally, when I started running back in January, I was going to do it in the spring. Next April was going to be my first half marathon. But with my run group, everybody was like, again, not like pushing me out of my comfort zone or anything like that, but they were just like pushing me, telling me like, you can do this sooner than you think. So I started training to do my first half this past October. So when I initially set my goal to run the half marathon, I set my goal to run it in 2.5 hours. That was very, very ambitious of me to set that goal. When I set that goal, when I decided I was going to run it, I was making progress steadily with my speed, and so I based that time off of like where I saw myself continuing to be. I actually think when I registered for the race, like back in the spring, I was sort of basing my half marathon mile pace off of like where my 5K pace was then, thinking that I would continue to get faster over the summer and into the fall. So I made that slightly ambitious time for myself, or goal for myself, and I didn't even come close. I mean, we were like 25 minutes off, but really since like August, my goal has just been to finish, my goal was just to finish the half marathon. I have not made any progress on my speed since like July. And that's really actually bothered me a lot. Like, I have been really self-conscious about it in like my shorter runs and everything, because I can feel myself not really progressing in speed. I'm not getting faster. I'm still slow, like whatever. And I get really discouraged about that, but I have to keep in mind that I have not been working on speed all summer. I was working on building up my distance because I was training for my first 13.1 miles. So I have to try to not be too hard on myself about that. Like, yeah, I was bummed that I didn't like even come close to making that original goal that I'd set for myself, but I knew going into the race that I wasn't going to hit that mark. Like, I knew 100% there was no way I was going to even come close. So our goal became to like stay ahead of like the 3-hour pacers. There were pacers in the race every 5 minutes. I think there were like 2 or 3 pacers, so you could like stay with those guys and do like a run walk type thing, and hopefully finish in under 3 hours if that was your goal, and we did. So our goal became to like just stay ahead of them, and we did. So Yeah, I was just trying to finish, honestly, and I've had so much health stuff going on, stuff that I haven't really talked to you guys that much about on camera because I don't have a diagnosis yet. I'm going to see a specialist in December, and hopefully we can figure some stuff out, but I have just been like constantly sick since like the end of June, so it's been really hard to make progressions in my speed and agility and stuff like that. So just the fact that I was able to go out there and run for almost 3 hours, just the fact that I'm able to run 13 miles right now, like that is an accomplishment for me, just because like all the stuff that's been going on with my health, sometimes dragging myself out of bed to even go run like 3 or 5 miles is really hard. So yeah, training for a half marathon or even training for distance in the summer is not something I would necessarily recommend. I'm going to be doing it again next year. Originally I had set my goal to do my first marathon this coming spring, but with all the stuff I've got going on, I have pushed that back. I'm going to be focusing on shorter races in the winter and the spring, and then doing a trail relay in May with some teammates, and then training for my first marathon actually about this time next fall. So I will be increasing my distance again in the summer, but I'll be doing most of my increasing later on into the summer, like starting in August instead of like June and July where I was this year. So hopefully it won't be as bad, and I'm going to like pretty much maintain the distance that I can run right now. I feel pretty comfortable running 14 miles, so I'm just going to like try to do that like once a month or so for the next several months, kind of maintain that. I am going to back off in November and December, and probably not run as much or as long. My distances won't be as long, and I'm probably only going to run maybe 1 to 2 days a week just these couple months, just to kind of like give myself some recovery. I've been really mentally drained as far as really anything goes, but especially running. Like I've found it super hard to motivate myself to even like get out and run with my run group and stuff like that recently. So I think I just need some time to like back off a little bit. I think I've been overtraining for sure. So yeah, on that note, as far as my training goes, I had run up to like 14 something mile, like I think like 14 and a half miles in my training. And again, in a normal half marathon training plan, you'd probably only run up to about 10 miles, but I knew I was going to have that marathon training in my future. And then the team relay that I'm doing in May, I think my total distance will be like 14 and something miles, like 14 and a half miles or something like that. So I knew that I had bigger distances other than 13.1 in my future, so I was just adding a little bit to that, and I wanted 13.1 to feel super comfortable when I ran it in October. And also back in August I did an 8-hour endurance race, and I ran 15 and a half at that. It was sort of on and off, it wasn't steady, like it was like a 3.5 mile loop, so you just kind of like ran a loop and then you could like refuel or walk around for a second and then get on to your other loop. So yeah, I knew I could run 13.1. I knew it wasn't going to be a big deal because I had run distances further. But in my training, the furthest I had run on a road was like 7 miles. Even though I had run that like 14 and a half mile distance, all of that longer distance training I had done had been on trails. And so like I said, the longest I've done on a road was like 7 miles. So that's why by mile 9 on this road race, I thought I was going to die. Like everything hurt. And it's crazy because, you know, I ran 15 and a half miles like 3 months ago, and I mean, I was kind of tired the next day, and I mean like a little sore, but not achy. And like even after that 15 and a half miles, like there was no point in that day where I was like, I can't go on. I hurt too bad. My legs won't physically move forward. Like there was not a part in that whole day. I mean, we ran for like a total of probably like 5 hours that day, like kind of on and off. And I felt fine. Like I was tired at the end of the day, but I felt fine physically, like my legs felt fine. So that's just the difference in road running and trail running. And I know 100% now, without a doubt, I am a trail runner. My friend Jessica has been asking me that all year. She's like, you just don't know if you're a trail runner or a road runner yet. And I was like, no, I mean, I like both. Like I really like to run trails, but like I enjoy road races too. And then after, like as soon as we finished that half marathon, I was like, road races are dead. Trail races all the way. So that's another reason why I'm sort of putting off my marathon training, because the marathon I was planning to do next spring, there was actually 2 different ones I was looking at, and they're both road, and I was like, I don't ever want to run 13.1 miles on road again, much less longer. So the marathon that I'm going to be training for next year is going to be on a trail. and I'm gonna be so happy with that. So will I do this half marathon again? Honestly, I probably will, even though I just literally said I don't want to run 13.1 miles on a road again. I probably will. I'll train a little smarter next year. I'll do some more training on roads and stuff at longer distances just to feel more prepared. But I really did love the race. It was a great event. I really liked the alcohol and food we got afterwards. That was super cool. And I mean, it was like included with your registration, but like, I mean, you didn't pay extra for it. So basically like it was free food and beer and bourbon after you just ran 13 miles. So it was kind of cool. And like the party downtown was cool and everything. So I just want to show you guys the medal that we got from this year's Urban Bourbon Half. It's super cool. It's like this pretty white ribbon that says, well, it's got the Urban Bourbon Half Marathon logo here, and then it says the date, so October 20th, 2018, and then it's got the little Louisville Sports Commission logo and Louisville, Kentucky on it. So really cool medal. It's huge, like this part is huge, but look, the little bourbon bottle spins. Like, how cute is that? So yeah, I was sponsored by Jim Beam, obviously. I think it is every year. I'm almost positive that it's always sponsored by Jim Beam. So yeah, it was a really cool race. Like I said, I'll probably do it again. It was a very Kentucky-ish race. Like, it was a very Kentucky-themed race, and I freaking love Kentucky. I'm so glad I live here. I love Louisville, and I love bourbon. So like, why wouldn't I go do it again, right? And I do definitely plan on doing other half marathons in the future. That won't be like the only one I ever do. I would like to do a trail half sometime. I think that'd be really cool. If I do this race again next year, I will definitely be trying to PR. Like, I'll definitely be trying to improve my time. You know, like I said, I'm going to be improving more on speed, like focusing on speed and intervals, tempo runs, doing like some hill repeats and stuff like that this winter and in the spring. So hopefully my next half marathon will be much faster. I don't ever see myself as like a sub 2 hour half marathon runner. Like, I just never do, but hopefully I get closer down to that 2 hour mark as the years progress. So yeah, it was a really great day. If you're into running at all, I would say this is a really good milestone to set for yourself. I knew when I was training to do my first half that it wasn't ever going to be like the furthest distance I would ever run. I knew I wanted to do a full marathon in the future, and I even right now have my sights potentially the next 2 or 3 years set on a 50K at least. So, you know, I still have like further goals as far as distance, but this is a really great milestone to set for yourself, like a really great goal to set for yourself to achieve. If you're into running at all, it's a really great milestone to just be like, I ran a half marathon. And it's definitely challenging. Like, it was a far enough distance that I felt super accomplished after we got finished, but it was not so far that I couldn't walk the next day. Like I said, I was more sore on that road race than I would have ever been with even like further distances on trail races and trail runs. So yeah, you might want to figure out whether you're a trail runner or a road runner or not, because I honestly thought that I thought I was a trail runner. Like, I was like, oh, I really like trails. I like to run on trails, but like the roads are fine too. Like, I can do both. And then that, like at mile 9, I was like, never again, I'm done with roads. So there will be very few road races in my future as far as longer distances. I don't mind them for like 5Ks and 10Ks, it's totally fine. But yeah, so that was my first half experience. I would honestly say it was a positive experience overall. I really felt super accomplished about it once I was finished. And I'm glad that I ran like my first official sanctioned half marathon. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you guys have any specific questions about like my running journey or like training for a half marathon or anything like that, you can always ask in the comments and I'll do my best to answer your questions. But if you have like very specific questions about training or anything like that, you might want to like actually consult an actual running coach. I am a certified personal trainer and I have been running on and off for a total of like 6 or 7 years, but honestly, like, I will probably hire an actual coach if I start ever training for anything like further than a marathon. So like, we have a running coach at our store that like our run group meets at, and thankfully I get to consult him for free about like lots of things. But if I actually wanted to hire a coach for a training plan or anything like that, like, he'd be the one I'd go to. So that's what I would recommend, like finding someone that's actually like super qualified in this stuff. But I can do my best to answer your most basic questions if you have any. So hopefully this video was enjoyable or helpful in some way. And I will see you guys in my next video next Friday. Bye!